Bene, grazie mille. Allora a questo punto ecco Luigi che è già arrivato.
Oh,
Grazie per essere con noi Luigi. Ti vediamo e sentiamo bene, quindi stai tranquillo.
ok, grazie.
Se succede qualcosa ci sono qui io a cercare di fare il buffone e tenere tutti occupati.
Ma l'ansia
Luigi,
della webcam, perché su Linux è sempre un dramma, quindi...
lo immagino, lo immagino. Luigi lavora come security engineer presso Small PDF. Oggi ci parlerà di propaganda grew and so did Twitter. Quindi prego Luigi, a te la
Ok.
parola.
Hi, everyone. The talk will be in English. I will try to speak in English. I'm a current English problem, but I hope you can enjoy the talk and the presentation. Who I am? Currently, I am a security engineer at Small PDF. Previously, I have worked for Arduino. I am, of course, an open source lover, and I am a Linux user, Twitter addicted. You can find my account in the slide. Evariste Galois, and I love cats and but both ties. What is this talk about? Well, we will see three information operations linked to two states, Russia and China, or more correctly, RPC, so People's Republic of China. But probably I will say China because it is shorter. I want to point out that this is not means that West country didn't lead or are not leading information operation. Just that Twitter has not shared any dataset related to West information operation, except for one, a small information operation led by a political party in Europe, a Spanish political party, Partito Popular. But we don't see this dataset in this talk. I want to explain also the methodology that I have used to read the dataset, to analyze the dataset shared by Twitter, because it is important to better understand how I have worked. And so I will present the script that I have used to read the dataset. I will present the limit of the dataset shared by Twitter, the error that the dataset contains, for example, the data that we haven't, and the data that we can extract also if they have not a dedicated column in the CSV file, because Twitter share the file in a CSV format. Methodology. Okay, all the Python script that I have written or that I have used to read the Twitter dataset are in a GitHub repo, so you can read them. And there are different scripts that I have written to read the dataset, especially you can see that the most important one probably is tweet analysis, because it's a Python script, a sort of command line interface, because you can use it from your terminal. And you can use it to read, for example, you can filter data according to the languages of the account or of the tweet. You can filter just per account, so you can extract data for a single account. And I want to thank you. I want to say thank you to Nicola Ballotta, because he has contributed to the project in a very good way to improve the performance of the script. I have used Python to write my script, and in particular Pandas and NumPy, because Twitter shared the dataset in a CSV format, so it is quite easy to import a CSV using Pandas like dataset, and then you can read quite easily the content of the file. In the repo, you can find also other scripts that I have used, for example, to call the Twitter API to collect data in real time, but it's not related to the dataset that I want to present today. In particular, tweet analysis.py can extract information related to the tweet and retweet per month that the account have written. So we can have a sort of Twitter volume. We can count the number of replies, quote, retweet, and hearts that the tweet generated by the bot or the account in the data set have generated. The script can generate the tweet daily rhythm. It's really important to understand, for example, the target of a particular information operation. And of course, we can the script can extract the account created by month or tweet grouped by languages or client. So what is the user agent used to publish a particular tweet? And we have a word cloud of retweeted user and hashtag used in tweets. There are two kinds of information, in my opinion, that we can extract from a dataset. There are information that can help us to understand the quality of an information operation. So the hashtag, the retweet user can help us to understand what are the topic or the trend that the account have tried to boost. There are you can create the user network, so how the account have interact with other account, both in the botnet network or also with other account. We can analyze a specific user because in every network there are key account or key user, and then there are a lot of other accounts that just amplify their tweet or their messages. And then there are the shared link. Shared link are really interesting information because, well, in a spam botnet, for example, there are a lot of fraudulent links that link to fraudulent website, and but in a state linked information operation, usually there are links to other platforms, for example, link to YouTube, link to other content like Reddit, or link to other websites created by the actors to spread a particular information. And for example, we can see in the other slide, but Russian operation has created a lot of accounts in different platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Tumblr, and they have created also original content like website and blog. So the shared link are really important information. Then there are the quantitative information, so we can understand in which period there are spikes or in which period the engagement is grow. We can see the user agent or the client used by the actor. We can see when the actor have created the account, for example, and so on. It is important also to understand that the dataset shared by Twitter doesn't contain some data. For example, we have no information related to IP address, and this information is really important. The Twitter team has this information, but we haven't, so we cannot be sure that a particular group of accounts tweet from the same IP address, for example. Sometimes we have information related to the username or the Twitter account ID, for example, because Twitter decided to share the account anonymized with an hash instead of share all the information related to the username. We don't have information about follower and following, so we don't know which account follow who, and we don't know if they follow a particular key account, for example, or not. And we have no information related to favorites. So we don't know if the bot account have tried to increase the engagement of other bot account, or they have just like other spam account and so on. And the tweets are trunked because the Twitter in the past permitted just tweets with 140 character, if I remember right. But now the Twitter permits 280 characters. But the API can collect IP just with a limit of 140 for some reason. I don't know why. So there are some limits that we have. There are some information that we cannot have, but using Twitter API or by reading the dataset shared by Twitter. We need to accept this. Then there are some errors also in the dataset. I mean, we are human, so also the Twitter engineers are human, and some tweet languages are not. I mean, some tweets are not classified in the right way, so the language is wrong for many reasons, because it is not easy to classify in an automatic way the languages of a tweet that doesn't contain text, for example. If a tweet has just emoji, or if a tweet contains just images, and if the tweet is shorter or too short, it is not easy to classify the languages, for example. There are some minor error in the classification of account. For example, in the first dataset, Twitter shared more than 200 accounts that was misclassified as a Russian propaganda account, but they were Venezuela propaganda accounts, for example. And also in other database, we can see that there are some accounts initially suspended that Twitter has decided to re-enable. And then the data is not so well formatted, and it is a problem if you want to write your own script to read them, because, for example, we have a lot of unidentified value, we have some blank shell, or we have NaN value, and this is a problem sometimes if you want to optimize a script to read a big data set. So this was a challenge when I have written the script. Metadata. What are metadata? Metadata are data that can help us to have more context on a particular set of data. So they can describe better our data. For example, we can extract some information that are very helpful to understand the information operation, like the retweeted account. We can collect the username, and then we can try to understand if Twitter has suspended this group of accounts or not. Of course, some propaganda account can retweet trusted source like mass media or other political account, but sometimes they can also retweet other bot. So understand if the retweeted account are still online or if they are suspended by Twitter. It is important to understand the propaganda or the information operation. Another important information are related, of course, to shared link. And the Snowflake ID can help us to extract the timestamp related to the account creation or the tweet creation. What is a Snowflake ID? A Snowflake ID is a unique number that can scale in a big infrastructure like Twitter. This is a format that was created by Twitter, and it has been introduced in production in 2010, if I remember right, which means that all the accounts have a different ID format. The first Twitter user, for example, have just an incremental number ID. The Jack account has the ID 12, if I remember right. And all accounts created after the Snowflake introduction have a unique Snowflake ID, and same for tweet. So the tweet ID and the account ID use the same format, and every Snowflake contains a millisecond timestamp. This means that it can be really helpful to understand if a group of accounts was created by automated tool, for example, or by human, because if a group of account has been created by automated tool, we have probably timestamps that are really close. How we can extract the timestamp from the Snowflake ID? We need to convert the Snowflake ID into a binary format. We need to remove the first bit, and we need to take the first 41 bit. This is a timestamp in binary format, so we can convert it in base 10. And then we need to add a custom constant epoch. And in this way, we can obtain the right timestamp, in millisecond of tweet and account ID. The timestamp in the account ID is the moment when the account was created. Of course, we can automate this. We can write a Python script or a Golang script or what you prefer. This is, in this slide, you can see just a Python script to extract the timestamp from the Snowflake ID. And explain the methodology was important for me because I don't want to convince you about my conclusion, but I want to be transparent in how I have read the data. Internet Research Agency. In October 2018, Twitter released the first two datasets associated to two-state information operation, one associated to Iran and one to Russia. It is important to understand when Twitter releases these two datasets because in 2016 there was a United States president election, and America has understood late that Russia have tried to create an interference in their election. In particular, there was two important operations by Russia, one associated to GRU and one associated to the Internet Research Agency, that is just a troll farm that 4 years have spread misinformation. But we can find this information operation also in other platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, Tumblr. So it is a cross-platform operation, not just Twitter. And in the United States, this was a very hot topic when they have understood that Russia has tried to spread the misinformation or hack the opinion. Okay, let's see some numbers and charts. We can see that the more than 50% of the accounts were created between the 2013-2014. This means 2-3 years before the United States election, because probably Russia started to spread misinformation before the United States election. The United States election wasn't the first target for the Russian government. And we can see that the tweet and the engagement are not aligned. So we have we can see that the tweet were published between 2014 and 2015, but the engagement grow only in 2016. And we can see that the engagement was really high. It is interesting to see the languages. The 50% of tweets are written in English, and the account are classified as English account, so the languages of the account. But we can see also that there is an important percentage of tweets written in German, for example. And this means that probably Russia, or internet research agency has tried to spread this information also in Germany, but we can see it later. The more than 60% of accounts have a description, and it is important. And we can see that, well, the most common word is follow, usually followed by me. So follow me. It was quite common, but also now it is quite common that spam account or just account want to find follower, and follow for follow is a common practice to increase the number of followers. Then we can see that conservative, Trump, MAGA, Make America Great Again are quite common, but also Black Lives Matter, because for the Internet Research Agency, it wasn't important to, for example, convince people to vote for Trump, but it was important to polarize people. So create two group of people that cannot communicate really. And increasing the polarization, it was probably the main goal of the Russian government. And this worked really well in the United States, because you have just two parties, and you can vote just for Republican or for Democratic Party. So polarize people in this context, well, I cannot say that it is easy, but probably it is a good environment to try to polarize people. It is important to understand that Russian government or Internet Research Agency started their propaganda not in the United States, but in Russia. And usually every dataset shared by Twitter show propaganda that is spread or has been spread in their own country. So also for China propaganda, we can see that they try to communicate with Chinese people. And same for Russia initially. We can see that the Russian account, so account classified like Russia, were created between 2013 and 2014. And we can see a spike in June, between June and November 2014. And more than 50% of tweets are written in Russia. And this because the troll farm operation start to spread propaganda into Russia or closer to their border, for example, Ukraine. And 4 out of 10 most popular hashtags are related to Ukraine and the Malaysia plane crash. This is probably the main reason why Russia has understood the potential of propaganda on Twitter and social network in general. Because in 2014 there was an airplane crash during the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and Russia decided to spread disinformation to try to change the public opinion. At the end, a Dutch lead international team said that the airplane was hit by a Russian missile launcher. But during the July 2014, the troll farm account spread a lot of information pro Russia, of course, to convince people that Russia wasn't involved in this airplane crash. Then they move to English tweet to American propaganda. So they have created an internal propaganda, and then they move to. They have tried to export it. The Internet Research Agency started to spread the disinformation 2 years before the election. So probably the election wasn't the first goal. Maybe they wanted just to polarize people. It was a long strategy. And it is interesting to see that the engagement started to grow only in 2015, 2017. So also after the Trump election, the president election technically. But it is interesting to see the quality of their information operation. They have created a lot of local news, fake local news account. For example, we can see wait, I need to read the graph, but we can read that there are a lot of New York City every day. It is, for example, is a fake local news account, but there is also Detroit News, or there is the Chicago I Daily. All these accounts, all these local news accounts are fake, and they created this account in 2014. So 2 years before the president election. In the top 100 most rated user by bot, we can find in the top, yes, we can find 14 accounts that are related to fake local news, and 11 out of 14 accounts changed their username at least one time over time. I don't know why, but it is another interesting information related to the internet research agency propaganda. And then hacking local media. You can also hack mass media. Because after the Twitter investigation, a lot of mass media and important journals like Guardian, for example, have identified on their article, on their news, a lot of embedded tweet generated or created by the Russian account. This means, and this is a good way to spread a particular misinformation, because if a trusted media share you, then you become a trusted source. So people trust you, and Russian account have tried to become a trusted source in this way. Also, Trump, for example, has retweeted a Russian account that I don't remember the username at the moment. I probably Tangop or something similar. So social media manipulation is literally social engineering, because they want that you trust them. And hacking and hack mass media usually is a good way. Then there are also German tweets, and you can see that there is a spike in 2017 during the federal election. So probably some Russian accounts have tried to spread misinformation also in Germany. That is probably it is one of most important European countries, but not with the same engagement, not with the same tweet volumes, because spread disinformation and lead an information operation is expensive and not easy. Then it is interesting also to see how the China government has tried to spread disinformation and propaganda on Twitter. It is important considering that Twitter is blocked in China. So probably they have tried to communicate with the expat Chinese people. There are two important data sets related or linked to the Chinese government by Twitter. One was shared in August, September 2019, and one was shared in last year. And it is interesting to see that for the second data set, Twitter asked a sort of help to some independent agency to investigate the Chinese propaganda. The first dataset is interesting because there are a lot of tweets, more than 30 millions, but we have a big network of spam accounts. Especially, we can see that there are a lot of Indonesian tweets, just spam, and same for English tweet, and just less 1 million tweets are written in Chinese. This is important to understand how the Chinese propaganda work on Twitter. Probably because Twitter is not so important for them. Probably because they have, of course, a strong internal propaganda. But we can see that also Twitter, for Twitter, is not easy to identify them. We can see that there is a spike in the account creation in the 2019. So when there were the Hong Kong protests, but we can see that a lot of accounts are just spam accounts because there are a lot of open follow for follow, and similar hashtag. This means that a lot of these accounts initially were created just to spread spam or or they are created to be sold, for example, and these accounts have been converted to propaganda account only in the 2019. Hong Kong protests are the main target of the Chinese propaganda. So it's a hot topic, and they have tried to spread another storytelling about the Hong Kong protest, especially between October 2018 and July 2019. And the goal, of course, was just spread an alternative narrative about this fact. It is interesting to see the daily rhythm, because if we check the daily rhythm of all tweets shared in this dataset, we can see that it's a mess. It is all red in every day, in every moment. If we check just the tweet written in Chinese, we can see a particular daily rhythm. We can see that during the weekend, the propaganda accounts are less active, and we can see that they spread information in a particular time zone. The time zone is the Beijing time zone. So they want, for some reason, target people in China, or probably they are written, so they are women that spread information that, and these humans are located in China. Probably this is the goal: spread information from China. So for this reason, Twitter probably have classified this tweet and this account like China propaganda. And it is important to remember that you cannot connect to Twitter from China. So for this reason, Twitter classify this account as state linked. It is interesting to see that there are some accounts in the dataset that Twitter suspended in a first moment, but then has been enabled by Twitter. Probably because I cannot be sure, because I haven't information on the IP, but maybe they have used just a Chinese VPN, and for the reason they were misclassified as a propaganda account. They were just some account related to some Spanish e-gamers, and it is interesting to see that Twitter re-enabled them. And it is another information. This means that Twitter sometimes can wrong. This was the first Chinese Chinese dataset shared by Twitter. Then last year, Twitter shared another one. And it is interesting to see how Twitter has improved their ability to identify Chinese propaganda account. In particular, they have written more information in a blog post. So usually Twitter doesn't share the methodology that they have used to identify the account, but this time for the second Chinese dataset, they have shared more information on their methodology. Especially, they have said that they have shared the dataset with the two important independent agencies. And they also have written that they have shared just the core accounts, not all the network. And this is another important information. We can see that in the new in the core account sharing the second dataset, the daily rhythm is similar to the subset of Chinese tweet in the first dataset. So for the old tweet, now we have a well-defined time zone. And we can see also that now the language is the tweet language is the main is Chinese, not Indonesian, not English. So they have improved their ability to identify probably Chinese propaganda account. And we can see that the main topic also for the second dataset are the Hong Kong protest and Guo Wengui, that is a Chinese billionaire and political dissident. So, for example, it is important to see that also if the dataset was shared by Twitter in June 2020, so during the COVID year, COVID is not the main topic of this dataset. But of course, there are some tweets related to COVID, of course. We can see that the accounts were created between October 19 and March 20, so before COVID. And the main topic, the hashtag, the most common hashtag are related to Hong protest and the billionaire dissident. It is interesting to see that there is a big spike in the number of likes that the tweets have generated between February and March 20. And all accounts have been suspended by Twitter in April 20. It is interesting to see this big spike in the hertz, because this means probably that the bots have changed their strategy to spread their tweet. So they don't use probably retweet to increase the engagement, but they use like and reply. It is totally different from, for example, the information operation led by the Internet Research Agency. In this dataset, we can find some tweets written in Italian, and they are really interesting because there are 81 tweets classified as Italian, but many are misclassified. They are just spam. But there are 25 tweets written in Italian that are really interesting. They are all retweeted by the same account, an hashed account, so we have information about the username or user ID. And this account retweeted are not in the dataset. So probably or are in another, in the Amplify account, or Twitter just don't consider this account, because the main focus for the Twitter engineers, for the Twitter team, were the Twitter account related to Hong Kong protest and the Chinese billionaire. So they haven't really tried to identify propaganda related to COVID. We can find some tweets related to COVID in the dataset, but this is not the main focus of the dataset. We can see that these 25 tweets were retweeted in 3 distinct moments, but in an automatic way, by an account created in February 2020. So quite a recent account. These are all 25 tweets. I don't know if you can read them. They are written in Italian, in a bad Italian, honestly, and they are some tweets are the same tweet, for example, and I have found a tweet that are translated from English to Italian, so the same tweet but written in different languages. And some tweet contains link to Italian newspaper, for example, Italian mass media, and they try to spread pro-Chinese government content. So they try to say that COVID was not related to China, and because during the COVID year, unfortunately, there was a sort of information war between the United States and China on the origin of the virus, for example. And tweets are written in Italian, but they contain a lot of grammatical mistake. And so this means probably that they have used a translator, automatic translator to write them. But it is interesting because they try to generate content in Italian. So it is an interesting information. All the 25 accounts were created in March, in 16, 17, and 23 March. They sent the tweet in 2 moments, so in 23 and 26 March, in a very well-defined moment. So probably it is a coordinated operation, of course not authentic, probably using automated tool. And all the accounts retweeted, so all these 25 accounts are now suspended by Twitter. So they are not in the core group, but Twitter decided to suspend them. So the question is, Italy was a target of Chinese propaganda. Well, in the dataset, there are not enough data to answer to this question, but the previous 25 accounts, 25 tweets show a coordinated inauthentic behavior. And the tweets were written in Italian, so they have tried to generate original content just for Italy. And we can, and we know that according to the previous chart, we know that the ratio between retweet like is high for like. The account have a low follower. There are a lot of spam account, of course, and the tweet contain grammatical error. I mean, the tweet written in Italian contain grammatical error. So we can try to use this label to find other similar account, like this one. We can see that this account have no peak, for example. They were created in March 2020, or in they are quite recent, like account. They received a lot of like. They shared a link to Italian media, but the tweet are written in a bad Italian. And probably these accounts are related to Chinese propaganda. And they are still online because I suppose that the main target of the second dataset shared by Twitter wasn't the propaganda related to COVID, but was the propaganda related to Hong Kong protest and the Chinese dissident. So what are the conclusions? The conclusions are that it's not easy to measure the impact of an information operation. And it is a problem because we can identify probably information operation on Twitter. Oh, I lost the slide. Sorry, thank you. But it's not easy to measure the propaganda effect or the propaganda impact. Especially some researcher using the engagement, but I don't like it, especially because we can be sure that the engagement is not created by other bots. For example, we know that the high number of like that the previous account received is an artificial engagement generated by other bots. It is more interesting, for example, see if some accounts are embedded or shared on trusted source, like if, for example, verified account that retweeted propaganda account or bot, mainstream media that have embedded the tweet in their news or in their articles. This is probably for me the most interesting way to measure the engagement or the impact of information operation, but it is not easy, because it is not easy to identify all the tweets that were embedded by mainstream media in their web page. Target, well, journalists, mainstream media, politics usually are target of information operation. We have seen this in a clear way in the Internet Research Agency propaganda. They have tried to become trusted, just interact with American politics, for example, or mass media. And so it is important to verify the account. Don't trust to a particular Twitter account just because it is popular, because you don't know if the engagement is real or not. Don't embed the unverified tweet on mainstream media. It is important for journalists this point, because yes, I know that it is quite easy to take the popular tweet and embed them in an article, but sometimes they are popular just because there was a fake engagement, or because the tweet became popular for just randomly. And this means that it is important to check the account before share it in an article. Because when a propaganda account, when a fake account is on a newspaper, it became trustable also for other. And in this way, the information operation can have an impact on people and in the real life, not just on Twitter or on other social media. And I have finished. Sorry for my English, I was a bit nervous. So I hope it was clear.
Grazie mille Luigi, molto, molto chiaro. Allora, abbiamo una sola domanda, che in realtà sono due domande insieme,
Okay.
ma è un'unica domanda. Ci chiedono se Twitter o altre piattaforme di social network hanno mai rilasciato informazioni di operazioni che sono state effettuate invece dagli Stati Uniti o da Stati europei o dalla nazione in cui sono stati fondati. E poi la stessa domanda, seconda domanda, molto correlata, è se ci sono degli esempi simili di social network di altre nazioni tipo Russia, non so, tipo VK, che hanno rilasciato delle informazioni di questo tipo di azioni.
Speravo in queste domande perché mi ero preparato le risposte.
Ah, bene.
Allora, la prima è che non ci sono, che io sappia, dataset rilasciati o quantomeno articoli rilasciati dai principali social network americani riguardanti propaganda generata o dal governo americano o comunque da entità, agenzie in America. Per quanto riguarda i paesi occidentali in generale, sappiamo che Twitter ha rilasciato un solo dataset riguardante un'operazione relativa al partito spagnolo, Partito Popolare, se ricordo bene il nome. È un dataset piccolo, ovviamente, perché è stato generato per lo Stato spagnolo e da un partito, quindi il numero di tweet è già minore rispetto a quello generato dai russi o dal governo cinese. Quindi la verità è che Facebook ha rilasciato da poco un articolo riguardante alcune operazioni di disinformazione condotte dalla Francia, se ricordo male, ma fuori dai confini nazionali, quindi in qualche stato africano, ma non mi ricordo gli stati, mi scuso. Quindi ci sono davvero poche informazioni per quanto riguarda la propaganda in Occidente, fatta su social media occidentali, da...
I russi, se fossi russo ti direi che quindi questa è la propaganda della propaganda.
Diciamo che è interessante. Il punto è questo: noi non sappiamo, almeno i social network non hanno per ora diffuso articoli o informazioni riguardanti propaganda fatta da paesi occidentali all'interno dei paesi occidentali. E sembra strano che non ci sia, cioè c'è sicuramente in una qualche forma. Sappiamo solo che Twitter ha condiviso un dataset riguardante uno dei più importanti partiti spagnoli, e questo dimostra quindi che c'è della propaganda interna. Di solito un dataset del partito spagnolo mostra solo come il partito voleva aumentare l'engagement, quindi, però anche quella è una forma di disinformazione, cioè è un engagement artificiale che può poi alterare il dibattito pubblico. E sì, è un problema, ma è anche interessante pensare che la verità è che gran parte della propaganda che viene diffusa, analizzata dai social network, è generata per il pubblico interno, quindi propaganda russa per il popolo russo, propaganda cinese per il popolo cinese e così via. Sono già meno gli esempi di propaganda come quella dell'IRA, cioè propaganda fatta per targetizzare il popolo statunitense da un paese esterno, perché è molto complicata da fare. Quindi noi non possiamo avere informazioni relative a VK o WeChat o altri social network che sono più famosi in altre parti del mondo, perché questi social network a loro volta non rilasciano informazioni. Per i ricercatori occidentali non è semplice interfacciarsi con questi social network perché non sono il nostro mondo, quindi sono anche un po' meno interessanti per certi versi. Non solo, ma anche la lingua è poi un ostacolo, perché devi iniziare a comprendere come funziona un social network che è scritto per esempio in cinese ed è pensato per il popolo cinese, che ha abitudini totalmente diverse dalle nostre, quindi l'informazione si diffonde in maniera diversa e tutte le approcci e le strategie che i ricercatori hanno per capire Twitter, per capire Facebook e così via, potrebbero e non valgono per altri social network. Ogni social network ha un suo modo di diffondere le informazioni, anche in quelli occidentali, solo che li conosciamo meglio perché li utilizziamo tutti i giorni.
Ok, grazie mille Luigi, super preciso, hai visto, è andato tutto perfettamente.
Grazie, siete troppo gentili, in realtà ero un po' nervoso e vi ringrazio dell'opportunità e mi ha fatto molto piacere.
Grazie ancora, ciao Luigi.
Ciao!